Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Alexio Picco. I'm the Managing Director of the Circle Group, and I'm now launching a new interview of the Connecting You Insights. We have a full set of events this week. And this afternoon, we have the pleasure to interview Phanthian Zuesongdham. We know each other since a long time. We were discussing before how long it is, and it's too much. So, but it's very good because in the meantime, I mean, she acquired a really, really relevant experience for the topics we want to treat today. Specifically, Phanthian is now responsible for Business Division Port Process Solution at the Hamburg Port Authority, and she's an experienced lead strategist and transformation manager with profound process management competencies in the maritime and port industry and experience in diverse international organizations. And since 2010, she has been shaping the Hamburg Port Authority and the Port of Hamburg with process orientation, digital strategy and policy, as well business transformation. Digitalization and innovation are not only her profession, but let me say, I know her very well, her passion, as she really loves collaborate, disrupt, create new ideas and bring them to reality. So in this respect, I think we are quite the same. Passionate for new technologies and for exploring everything we can call future. So in this respect, I prepared for you, Phanthian, a number of questions that are strictly related to your experience. And again, thanking you to be present with us today. I will start with the first one. So that is related to your experience in the sector, and specifically which are the main business development lines of the Port of Hamburg, and which are the most innovative products you see in the next 3 years to come.
So first of all, Alexio, thank you so much and for the invitation to this interview, and also for your kind introduction just a minute. And yeah, I'm very pleased really to answer and to share my experience in this area of doing the digital transformation at the Port of Hamburg. According to your questions, I would say that right now we are exploring some of the business opportunity areas for the business development at the Port of Hamburg. The first one is the drone service for industrial use. As we could see that we have seen how the market of drones has become very important for some industrial uses like inspection, situational awareness, and also some automation in infrastructure management area. We would like to explore these kinds of opportunity, how we can really integrate into our business model, and how we can use these drone services to be beneficial of the infrastructures maintenance and operation in our port operation as such. And that is not easy task, because actually the drone market is still evolving, I would say, especially in terms of legal framework, regulations. We still at the beginning that the European Commission is also now drafting some of the legislation which should be in place to regulate and govern these kinds of new emerging technologies, because it would be very important that it should be widely accepted in the public, and also that the industry really aware of the potentials and the business opportunity out of this, not only just earning money by that, but also the opportunity how to use these kind of technologies in terms of more efficiency in their process, and how to conduct their process in other way rather than the conventional method that they have been using so far. That was the first one. The second one is about the product. I would not say it's a product, but it's a more or less the concept that we would like to introduce in terms of just-in-time arrival collaboration among the maritime shipping stakeholders. as you could see that there's a lot of new services upcoming provided by the some of the platforms service provider that would promote the more certainty in the supply chain organization or orchestration. And just-in-time arrival collaboration is one of the most important concept which is coming up and being integrated into those logistics services. Because once that you are more certain in the planning and also knowing when the goods which will be arrive at certain spots, then you could also use this information for further planning in your internal process. And that's why the more certain, the better, because it's more cost efficient and resource efficient. Then the third one is the effective data sharing. There are a lot of sharing mechanisms and also services that we could use nowadays. And I think the challenge that we are facing right now in the logistics is that we don't have really a common framework. And I see that these common framework that we would speak more or less in the same way and the same understanding, that is important in the logistic and the supply chain management. Because as we are acting globally, you have some certain differences and also some preferences in the regional and also in the domain, the cluster of the business. But more or less, the logistic and supply chain are acting interactively among the parties. And that's why we would need a common framework so that we can enhance the data sharing as such in more effective way. And that is maybe it's not the products that we are looking for, but there are some concepts which could be integrated into an innovative product so that we are not any longer using the conventional way of working and having a better resource contribution into our process optimization. And also to increase the customer satisfaction at the end.
That's always the ultimate aim of a port and the business of the port. No, I mean, you touch upon very three relevant issues. One of them, the last one you mentioned, I have also a question for you at the very end that is related exactly on how harmonization and, let's say, standardization are going on in this respect. And it is also very important to stress the importance of the so-called port column optimization that you mentioned. And of course, I mean, we are still, to explore a lot of possibilities using drones for this. So there are really three crucial points. But everything you do now in a port, even using this kind of technologies, you have always to liaise and to interact with a broad platform of stakeholder and citizens and so on. So how do you see nowadays in your port this process of optimization with stakeholder collaboration and engagement within the port community, and how you are able to reach a good consensus on specifically when you launch some innovations?
So as you mentioned already, that port is quite large and is a complex environment with a huge number of stakeholders, especially in our case where we are a port city or city port, as we call, that the proximity between the city and the port is almost zero, because when you jump the river, you get in the port already in the city of Hamburg. And in the port of Hamburg, we seriously take our role as a manager of port traffic and infrastructure management. And therefore, we would like also to look at this issue in a holistic way. And we have been starting for this issue quite some time. But now the HPA has been working and transforming their organization also to cope with this challenge in order to be more customer centric. At the former times, I think that by history and also the the past evolution of the organization itself, we come from a public service authorities, and right now we would like to act, even though we are a public service authority, but we would like to be more customer centric, more customer oriented. And to reach this goal, it's also important that the HPA as an organization decide that they have to change the internal organizational structures. And that's why the last December, they have set up a new business division devoted to this topic, called Port Process Solution, which now I'm honored to lead. And the activities that we are touching in this division is about customer centricities, is about how we could really make the observation or even suggestion, identifying optimization possibilities for the port as a whole. And the port process, as you know, involve a lot of stakeholder, and it's only way that we could really optimize this process once that we look at it or analyze it in a holistic way, and also to collaborate and cooperate with those stakeholders. Because if you just work alone in your microcosmos, you will get nowhere. You will not get the acceptance from the stakeholders that the change or some new idea that you are creating maybe is not touching upon the pain point that the stakeholder or the customers is seeing. And that's why it's very important that we start the dialogue with the stakeholders, and also initiate activities or integrate the existing activity that they are already out there, use those kinds of platforms of dialogues to stimulate the exchange of view and the idea among the parties. And I think we have already created some good companions in the Port of Hamburg, and we care also about the good spirit in the port community here. Even though I just started my work in this division, but I also could really see how this thing is evolved positively. But nevertheless, it's not easy really to manage this large number of the actors. But I think that the goal is really not out of reach. And one more thing that we would like also to see that all the stakeholders that we are starting or maintaining the dialogue with them, we see them as a partner and customers in general, so that we would like to know and understand their needs, and to specify what kind of value, why and in what area that we should collaborate, and who could bring in their strength into this issue, so that we can contribute some of the competencies, and to use to achieve the common goal. And then all in all, the community will benefit at the end. And yeah, I think we are still on the transformational journey that we have strived for, but we are on the good way, I would say.
No, that's very good, and I see that. I mean, the managing a port is. I mean, you have so a broad number of stakeholders to interact with. It's so huge that it's really a step by step. Also considering that probably it was a little bit underestimated in the past. This kind of dialogue that is crucial, also because the interaction with the, let's say, with the regional and macro regional industrial area is even more important now. That leads me to the next question, because we are really in a period in which ports are now in a way emerging in their role of energy hubs. And which is the strategy of the Port of Hamburg in this kind of transition towards more efficient energy, or to play even a role as an energy node? And is there any role for digitalization in this respect?
I think that we could really observe the development in the port of Hamburg since we have introduced our smart port program since 2015 live at the IHPH conference when we hosted that in that year. We introduced one of the pillar of the strategy smart port is that the smart port energies, and we have trigger these issues because we see that the energy efficiencies of a port is very crucial, and the port is one of the most consumer of this energy sector also in a city, and that's why we care about the energy efficiencies and we care about the decarbonizations of the whole ecosystem, I would say. And that's why the Port of Hamburg, we have designed it at the first place that we would like to support different kind of emerging technologies which would come, because we would not know at the point of investment or the point of decision making if these would be the technology that will really be successful or run at the end. And that's why we try to explore in different sectors. In the past, we do explore about LNG, we explore about shore power supplies that we already implemented in 2015, for example. And right now we are scaling up because we are experiencing the change and also the readiness and also the willingness of the industry that they would like to change also on the ship side. Because it's always the egg and hen problems when we are talking about the new technologies, who would invest first, and we would like also to take this role facilitating that. And right now we see also that the technology on hydrogens is coming, and how to create the green hydrogen energies. And that is also why we as a landlord port, we collaborate with the politics, like with the Senate and the City Council, to provide opportunity for this kind of business also to grow in the region, and providing some land in the port for the hydrogen park to be established, for example. And I would say that in all today's business, you cannot really ignore the digitalization. The digitalization is an integral part of building up business or doing process optimization from really the design stage to the implementation and even the fade out stage.
And that is why for the last couple of questions, I will come back to digitalization. That's also one of your key expertise. As you also briefly mentioned before, there are several initiatives worldwide to enhance data collaboration, process harmonization, and standardization. And which are the most promising ones in your views, and how do you see the process towards a more efficient digital interoperability in the near future?
Yeah, I observed the development quite some years now about the data collaborations, and also the willingness is growing among the stakeholder year by years. And many of them are really looking promising because we have quite a highly engaged global community, I would say. So if you would be attending different kinds of conferences or webinars and so on, you always meet more or less your friends now in the in the port community, and I think every initiative they really make some tangible and visible results, which quite a very important thing also to highlight. But because of these rising numbers of initiatives that we are doing, because everyone is really powerful and also active in the sense of driving things moving forward. Another side of the coin is that we sometimes get lost, I would say. So sometimes if you don't follow the news quite closely, then you probably miss one of some initiative which is coming up. And if you don't exchange with your colleagues from another port or, for example, in the community, you don't know what is really going on and how you would really structure your knowledge as such, so that you could making a decision in which kind of initiative is aiming what, and you have a little bit lost in orientation. And for us, it's also sometimes hard to make a decision in which initiative should we actively participate. And all of us realize that also we all have limited resources, especially once we come to a qualified personnel to some specific topics. At the end, when we end up in the most initiative, we met the same people, and meanwhile they become our friends and professional companions, for example, us. And I would like also to raise one of example is about the just-in-time arrival and port co-optimization that you mentioned earlier. It's very hot topic right now in maritime business, and there are a lot of initiatives out there. At least I know 4 or 5 of them, and they are setting more or less the same goal. And because maritime business is so global and the collaboration is also global, so you are facing the same challenges at the end of the day. And I think if we could really join force here to really leverage who is and agree in which initiative will take part, the focal point part of the topic, because the topic is quite large, and you could probably divine the strengths and competencies among the initiatives and make it really operable in the real business world. That would be really beneficial for all, instead of setting the same goals, doing the same things, and then at the end becoming competitive to each other.
You're perfectly right. I also feel the same in digitalization. There are too many, and it's not easy to follow all of them. And you may be confused or misled sometimes. That is true. But in this respect, as a last question, how do you see the European policy going on? Meaning specifically, there are 2 new EU regulations already approved, and they will be totally operational in a number of years. One concerning specifically the maritime domain, that is the one on the European Maritime Single Window environment, and the other one more global on the electronic transport document, the EFTI regulation. How do you see those 2 regulations?
I would say that the European Commission is taking also quite an important role right now to drive the digital transformation in Europe. And especially we realize in the terms of the transport and logistics sector that there are lots of supporting financial instruments, and also many programs, and also different kinds of regulations like you mentioned here. And the regulation that about the European Maritime Single Window and FT, they are very important, and they are really the great attempt for the harmonization and facilitation of data sharing in the maritime and transport sector. I would say that's these 2 right now are the main leading regulation for our sector. And their successful implementation will really bring the whole industry forward in the digital transformation. And right now, what we are experiencing is that we have a challenge, because these topics are very complex, and the level of the expectation from the industry is very high. And also, we have a very tight timetable to implement those regulations. And I would like to probably elaborate more on the example of the European Maritime Single Window, because I'm getting close to that, as I'm also one of the German delegates for this working group. In terms of complexity, for example, we have already implemented the National Single Window as the Directive 2010/65 in 2015. And at the first attempt, the goal for the harmonization could not really be reached, as each member state have implemented their own single windows. And now we have 27 single windows with 27 architectures and 27 data models. And with the European Maritime Single Windows as a regulation, the European Commission has a really high goal set that we would like to solve these issues. That the harmonization is not existing. And the first thing is really to achieve a common architecture, understanding, and also a common data model, which we are still working on, and it's a very hard exercise, I would say, even though for an experts, because you have different specialities or characteristic of 27 members, and you would like to create a framework which is applicable to all the member states. And I see a progress here where the IMO file data model are considered and right now being integrated in by the European Commission for creating the single data model so that we have one harmonization. And however, there's a lot of things to do on technical architecture, functionalities for the reporting modules, message implementation guides, and so on. And this work mostly, when you create this kind of system architecture, the devil is in the details. And often it is so crucial factor for a successful implementation. And that is already one of the first challenge that I think we should not neglect that. The second one is about the term of expectations of the stakeholders towards this kind of regulation. Coming to the example of the European Maritime Single Window, the first attempt 6 years ago in 2015 when it's launched, it did not deliver a satisfying outcome for the shipping industry, being simplification of the administrative process when calling an EU port. And the pressure of this second try is therefore very high. And so if we could meet the expectation, we could also expect the wide acceptance of this concept among the stakeholders and also the industrial players. And I would say that all parties have to do everything to make this successful. Otherwise, you can probably not come with other EU regulation because the people would say it will fail anyway. So this is a really serious exercise that we have to do. And to get this acceptance from the public and the private sector who will have to implement, we have to achieve the state of harmonizations. And that is actually the utmost goal that I think we have to strive for. And otherwise, we will lose also time. And last but not least, the credibility of the EU regulation implementation will also be a little bit scratched by that. And this is also the concerns of the member state that we have right now. And that brings me to the third challenge about the timelines that is quite tight. The forcing timeline of each phase that we see in the regulation or for the preparation to enforce this implementation is really challenging. And there are a lot of major issues to discuss and also to solve in details. And therefore, I really hope that the official deadline determined by the legal process will not be only the mean that could overrule the rational process of the conception, which would make this regulation work effectively and at the end deliver the added value to the maritime industry as a whole, as it is intended at the first place. And in FT is a little bit, I think, is more concrete because in FT you have only about the transport, freight transport information, and it's kind of a subset also for the single window in a sense. But all in all, we still have a lot of challenges, and I think we do good if we really put the efforts to those harmonization to really enhance the data collaboration in the whole ecosystems.
You're perfectly right. We have been working together for the application and implementation of Directive 65, and it was really challenging at the time, but at least it was, I mean, enough to understand the complexity, because for sure, with all the good faith, for sure, but the complexity was underestimated at the time of the Directive 65. Now it's definitely clear, and it could be a very, very big step forward, because in a way the harmonization will be a de facto harmonization, because the system will be provided by the Commission through EMSA. So it could be, but you are perfectly right that there are millions of details to be sorted out. And also, if the top level is in a way harmonized, the IMO fund forms international level, the European ones could be, but the national ones are still a mess, because the member states are very different country by country. Phanthian, it was really, really a pleasure to have you for this interview. It was really nice, and I'm sure that we will see together, hopefully physically soon, but also digitally in other events. And really thank you for joining us, and hope really that that our common work can continue in the near future. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Alexio.
Thanks a lot, and see you, and take care.
Hope to see you soon. Take care too. Stay safe.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.